Susan B. Anthony was co-organizer and president of the Women's Rights Leaders. The other leaders were Lucy Stone and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Susan B. Anthony brought strong organized skills to the women's rights movement. She argued that women and men should receive equal pay for equal work. She also believed that women should be allowed to enter traditionally male professions such as religion and law. Susan collected more than 6,000 signatures to petition for new rights for women. A strong and passionate quote that Susan B. Anthony once said was, "There never will be complete equality until women themselves help to make laws and elect lawmakers." Oppositions to women's rights were publications about women's rights that first appeared in the United States shortly after the American Revolution. However, women's concerns did not become a national issue with strong oppositions for many more years. Some critics believed that women should not try to work in public for social changes, but the changes took place when women took action in leading role in reform and abolition. Women took advantage of better educational opportunities in the early 1800s.
Lucy Stone. I was a well-known spokespeaker for the Anti-Slavery Society. In the early years of the women's rights movement, Stone became known as a gifted speaker. Stone was the husband of Lucy Stone. Elizabeth Cady Stanton called her the first who really steered the nation's heart on the subjects of the women's wrongs. Emma Willard educated herself in subjects considered such a table only for boys, such as science and mathematics. In 1821, Willard established the Troy Female Seminary in New York. Catherine Beecher, daughter of the temperance crusader Lyman Beecher, founded schools to teach women about homemaking in Connecticut and Ohio.
Amelia Jenks Bloomer was born on May 27, 1818 in Homer, New York. She was a women's rights activist, fashion designer, publisher, journalist, and a governess. In the early 1850s, Amelia Jenks Bloomer thought that long skirts and dresses kept women from moving easily. She then began wearing a pair of loose trousers gathered at the ankles. The trousers, invented by Elizabeth Miller but commonly called bloomers, caused quite a scandal. 80 years later, in the 1930s, wearing pants became commonplace for women. Amelia Jenks Bloomer died on December 30th, 1884 in Council Bluffs, New York. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was born in Johnstown, New York in 1815. She married a prominent abolitionist and settled in Seneca Falls, New York, where she had 7 children. Later in life, she traveled widely, giving lectures and speeches about women's rights across the country. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and fellow activist Lucretia Mott organized the nation's first women's rights convention at Seneca Falls in 1848. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony also founded the National Women's Suffrage Association in 1869. For nearly 6 decades, she spoke and wrote passionately about women's rights. Elizabeth Cady Stanton helped author the Declaration of Sentiments, which demanded equal rights for women, including the right to vote. A brilliant speaker and debater, Elizabeth Cady Stanton spoke out against laws that kept married women from owning property, earning wages, and keeping custody of their children. Elizabeth Cady Stanton died in 1908 in New York City.
Susan B. Anthony, daughter of Quaker abolitionists, worked for women's rights and called for equal pay for women, college training for girls, and coeducation. Coeducation was the teaching of male and female students together. Before coeducation, mostly men got educated during the 19th century and became standard in many cultures. Later on, coeducation spread around the world. For example, once coeducation was introduced in Western Europe, they urged boys and girls to learn how to read the Bible. Feminist, a person who advocates or is active in promoting women's rights. Angelina and Sarah Grimke were early supporters of women's rights. Men and women were created equal, they declared. Elizabeth Stanton, Lucretia Mott, and others organized the first women's rights convention in Seneca Falls, New York.
Apparently, even many abolitionists did not think that women were equal to men. This angered Elizabeth Cady Stanton and her friend Lucretia Mott. Stanton and Mott later announced the Seneca Falls Convention, the first public meeting about women's rights held in the United States. It opened July 19, 1848 in Seneca Falls, New York. A Declaration of Sentiments was written by the convention organizers. This document detailed beliefs about social injustice toward women. and about 100 people signed the document, which included 18 charges against men. Sojourner Truth was another powerful supporter of both abolition and women's rights. Her birth name is Isabel Baumfree. She took the name Sojourner because she felt it was her responsibility to be a sojourner or traveler and spread the truth. Although she never learned to read or write, she stood 6 feet tall and was a confident speaker. In 1851, she gave a speech that is often quoted to this day. That man over here says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches, and have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. Look at me. I have plowed and planted, and no man can outwork me. And ain't I a woman?